Hi, welcome back to Rock Talk Theater, where I talk to people on and off stage about anything and everything Rochester theater and beyond. Today's interview is with Jeff and Steph Siuda. They are the acting team behind Out of Pocket's newest installation called Constellations, opening up on February 26th. Again, thanks for joining us. Here's the interview. All right, so we can get started. My first question is, what happened in March with Out of Pocket? Like, what? Take me through what was going on then.
Last March?
Last March.
Last March.
We had just closed. What was the name of the show?
That's the last show we did. That's how far ago it was.
Barbara and Linda and all them.
The
mornings at 7.
Mornings,
7,
yeah.
We had just closed mornings at 7, and we're ready to. What was the placebo? Right? Placebo would have been the fall.
Yep.
And it got canceled, and
because of that, knowing that you need money to keep a company afloat, talk to me a little bit about the ingenious ways that you guys have worked to make this still something that is relevant and entertaining for Rochester audiences.
Something we found, everybody who has a theater wants a theater. We all want our own space, etc. And for once we were actually happy that we didn't have a theater because of, as we know, those of our friends who own or are part of theaters, how much they're struggling to keep up on things like rent, mortgage, all of that type of thing. So we're very lucky in the fact that we use and we only rent the MuCCC when we need it. But at the same time, we still need to keep the MuCCC going, because the MuCCC is pretty much, it's been our home probably, I think, 7-8 years now we've been there. So we were just trying to figure out how we could still bring theater out to people. And I know the first show was me, the second show was Jeff and I. So we're looking at things that we can pull in pieces that are of people that are already quarantined together. So people who are already together that we're not necessarily going to be bringing in different groups and possibly making people sick along that line. Jeff, I'm not sure if you can add more.
Well, yeah, and then we first I did go back. Placebo was going to be the May show, and then we had a.
It was okay. Yep. It's been moved like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
yeah.
Crazy. But we also did a bunch of trivia nights, and then we just recently did the drag bingo night, and just ways to sort of raise money. And we've had some generous donations come our way. We've applied for a couple grants, which fortunately have been delayed. They keep saying, well, we're trying to get. I think everybody's money for even the grants has dried up, and just trying to figure out how to read the applications and send them out. People can't meet obviously in person to go over the grants, and so but we've had some generous donations, and we had the trivia nights and the bingo nights, and we're going to keep doing that. People seem to really like that, and
I think one of the fun things about those too is those a lot of the people that joined some of those trivia nights weren't necessarily people who've been to either a lot of out-of-pocket shows or or part of like the drag trivia. A lot of the people in the group I'd known or known through other people, so it was a great way to build the community as well as we got great feedback from, and I know you had attended one or two as well. Just of how much fun it was to actually see people, because that's the other thing right now. None of us are seeing each other. So just if it's just for an hour or two on a fun Zoom night, going off of a gift card, whatever, it's just a fun time to actually be with our fellow members in the community.
And it still is somewhat of a performative kind of thing if you're hosting a game night or hosting drag bingo, and still in the theatrical space, but also to me, having been part of it, also reaching an audience that may not necessarily have said, Out of Pocket is doing a play, I'm going to go there, but you guys are doing some things that are different, that are bringing in people, which is really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, appreciated in the time of COVID when we can't really do much when we go outside.
Oh, I know.
So let's talk about a little bit about Constellations and what brought this play on. I know, Steph, you just mentioned that, trying to think of things that you can do with people who are quarantining. Obviously, you guys are married and living together, so you can do this. But talk to me a little bit about why Constellations and why now.
Yeah, we had actually read this show, a couple years ago, I think. Jeff and I had read it and just fallen in love with it, and we can get into that a little more. But we were going to do it as a fringe show. He and I were actually going to do it like next year as a fringe show because it's such a complex piece, just the way it kind of the repetition and stuff. And we were like asking any two people to learn this play because fringe is usually one or two shows and that's it. So it's so much work for that. So we were going to do it as fringe, but then it just kind of worked just for what it was because of the simplistic the simplistic setting, as well as it's two people. So that was
It's
kind
only
of the
an
way
hour.
we chose to do it, and it's only an hour. So that was kind of part of the reasoning we chose to do it, as well as Jeff can kind of go into more detail on it there.
Well, as well as Stephanie's sort of background. I mean, one of the plot points in the play is that the play is about multiple universes. Or people who don't know, it follows this romance in these two characters, a beekeeper and an astrophysicist, but it's set in parallel universes. So you get to watch, dates play over and over and over, and chance meetings over and over and over. And in one of the storylines, the female character in the play develops a brain tumor, and that plays out in a number of ways. And Stephanie, and she can explain more about this. She had a brain tumor when she was in high school, which happily was benign. But we've talked a lot about in our lives about what could have happened, what would have happened, all of the thoughts that cross your mind in regards to what if it hadn't been benign, or what if it hadn't been able to be taken out so easily, or what I had a colleague who also had a brain tumor, but it was like all mashed into the to the brain, so it was almost impossible to remove. So that is, I think, at the heart of the play, is this idea of how our lives turn on these just minimal little chance encounters and choices and seconds of noticing this or not noticing that, or paying attention to this or doing that, and your entire life sort of changes. So
Yeah, I had no idea that Steffi had a brain tumor. That's crazy.
So I tell people that's the reason I have curly hair. This is what happens when you shave your head. Yeah, my senior year of high school, of all the years, I had lost sight in my left eye. So we didn't know what it was. One doctor said, we'll wait a couple months and recheck it. So we decided to get a second opinion. So strongly second opinion if you want to do that with doctors. And it was benign. It was about the size of a fist, and it was pressing against my left optic nerve. So it was in the left frontal lobe. So they surgery removed it, but so very lucky, as he said, benign. But since then, I mean, this was when I was 18, how many years later? Every year I now have to, go back to my exam. Every 3 to 5 years, I have to go for an MRI to make sure anything's not still growing, etc. So it's reading this play definitely connected me with that character, with what she was going in. Because in some cases it is benign, in some cases it's not. But just being in that unknown situation of even when something's removed, is it really gone? Definitely kind of had a connection. We also realized the other night there's a connection too with Jeff and our relationship in this. So Jeff and I met through theater. We met at a theater party. We went on a date, didn't quite work out. I always joke about it, didn't quite. He called me for our second date and I was busy. But a year later we got cast in a show together. So it was hey, do we want to try this again? And that kind of plays into this show as well. Is we after we'd been together for a while, he had said to me, hey, remember when we bumped into each other that one time? I was gonna, I waited around to apologize, and I was like, well, it was a good thing you didn't, because I was seeing somebody else. So it's those different levels of it's the right time and the right place. Things can really affect the different situations you're in.
Yeah, the question of what if is huge in this. I'll talk a little bit about this, and we can discuss that too. That you guys made a decision, or OP made a decision to also do a play reading while you guys are also rehearsing. I am part of the play reading, so I know more about the show than typically most people might in a typical audience. But yeah, the question of what if and things that can turn on a dime, the little tiny insignificant details that can be different in every multiverse. It's very interesting to look at. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like why you decided to have a play reading for this play in particular?
Mhm. Well, Rachel Solomon, I'm first going to give great credit to her. She's one of our board members. So she brought up the idea. So it was a mixture of that, as well as I think one of the best ways to put it, our director, Kevin Indovino, said it when he first read it. He's like, people are going to walk away saying, what did I just see? So we thought this was a great show to use in this aspect, because it really gets you kind of to look at the play and to look at different ways of what did you just see? Because you don't always have that opportunity when you see a play, just to kind of dissect it and say, well, what about the, and probably, and I'd love to hear, and I know we're going to do a Zoom talk as well. I'd love to hear what the play reading group thinks too, because this is a show that you could play in so many different ways, and who knows what direction each one is taking. Jeff, I keep letting you, I'll let you comment now. So
I just realized, so Stephanie, people have read the play, so we really do have to know the lines.
I know.
It's actually been thinking
just hopefully
about
they don't have the play open. Hopefully they don't have two screens, so they have the play open with the
that's not right.
Pressure.
That was one of the things we actually talked about last night.
No.
Was what not like, oh, they have to be perfectly correct, but one, being a husband and wife team being able to do this, there's so much repetition and listing kind of in the show that you could, I even brought it up. I said, you could get caught in a loop and just keep playing. And you're not sure which universe of this scene
we have that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
We have every night we come to a point at some point where there's a light shift or a sound shift.
Yeah.
And we built in some little things to trigger when we're moving to the next thing, and we're either one or both of us should just stand absolutely still and go,
where are we now?
We have little codes, right? So yes. Is this bee speech, ballroom dancing, is the a bar, there's like, 'cause then that'll help us orient, like, oh wait, okay, here, that's where we're at, because it's
and there's one scene that like plays out through, like it's in parts, and then the end you get the full scene, but even that we'll find ourselves like in the beginning when it's parts, we'll keep going, and our stage manager Eric Leffler will just like cut the line. We're like, oh, oops, it's done there. We forgot it ends there. Like later it's more on that. So that's definitely been one of the challenges in it.
And coming as an actor, coming into the play reading, that was how I was approaching the play reading, was like, how would I do this as an actor or director, and how would I change? Because as you're reading it, for people who have not read the play, the universes are somewhat differentiated by the italics or bold or regular font that's in there. But we also realized that those italics and bold, there's only 3 possibilities for that, but there's multiple universes, and they don't necessarily they aren't just 3 universes. There's
we found out the italics is the only one. The italics is the only one that actually is linked throughout, but everything else, all those bold, and I went through and I highlighted, like all of one was one color, all of another was another, and then Jeff says, well, you do realize though, not all the bold go together. Right. And it was like, we realized, but it was just easier for me to mentally separate it out in my script to know where I was in which section.
And then there's the whole scene in sign language too has been and poor Stephanie. I mean, I literally, I think for half of my sign language lines are either okay, good, or I understand. She has to, we met with the amazing Judy Molnar, and she walked us through it all, and we've been watching YouTube. She has YouTube recordings we've been watching, and what Stephanie has, like, I saw this picture of a woman in a bed, like, hooked up to all these tubes, and she looked gross, and there were balloons surrounding her, and it's like 40 signs for like 7 words, and I'm like, I understand.
Okay,
and then she death stares at me.
Judy had worked with a group in New York who did this show, and she said the actress was just couldn't stand the actor because of the fact that he had like okay and indeed, and like those were his responses to everything versus the but Judy's wonderful. And that's the other thing too, when Jeff and I first read this play, we hadn't even like realized the whole sign thing until we really started rehearsal. We were like, wait, this scene's in sign. We need to learn sign for this. So that's been been fun.
It's definitely an interesting, exercise in acting. There's so many different things.
Oh, yeah.
One of the questions that we have as a playwriting group was, how will you differentiate? And knowing that you said like there are light cues and there are sound cues, or there's there's
Yep.
different things.
Yes.
That's very interesting. And
Yeah.
We weren't going to in the beginning. In the beginning, there wasn't going to be any. We were just going to, and then Kevin realized there needed to be some kind of separation in between.
No way.
It was just easier, I think, for us as well as for the audience, especially since it's not live. If it was live, I think it would be easier to play through in some, but being on screen, I think it's easier to kind of cut it.
And because some of the universes are only differentiated by a word or two, and it's all tone. It's all how we do it differently. And so we've built a language of different light cues and different sound cues that will tip, and help to also differentiate the scenes that move forward in time versus the italics, which move sort of backwards until you get the whole. So there's a whole, Kevin initially was like, I think we'll be okay. And then a week in, he was like, nope, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Is there anything that I haven't touched on Constellations that you want to talk about? I guess I should ask this question. This is different. I don't know if Out of Pocket has done this before, but this obviously is being streamed live. Is that the first time that we've done that? How has
it's not being streamed live, so we are filming it. So similar to what we did with Joan for the fall show. So we are filming it, and then it'll be streamed that way. So we'll be filming it on Saturday, and then that'll be streamed through that service. Is how we're doing it.
The other thing, hopefully, is we're hoping to use several cameras, and that I think will also help to differentiate some of the timelines and but in order to do that, we have to leave Tony Carter, who's filming it for us. He needs like a week to edit.
Yeah. Right. Gotcha. That I was trying to figure that out too. I wasn't sure if you guys were performing it live at MuCCC or if it was going to be streamed or
streamed. Yeah. But we learned a lot we learned a lot on the last show, just about like how long we need to edit and stuff, because the last one we had our tech and everything set out ahead of time and our dates set out, so it was like we filmed it and then Tony had like 2 days to edit and to get it up there. So now we've at least given more of a padded cushion to work on it before it's streamed.
Yes, editing takes some time.
Yep.
It does.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's next? What is OC looking to do in the future? Do you think that there might be a chance for an actual season next year?
Yeah, I think so. Our plan, I think, is to do a May show again, very similar to what we've been doing so far. Film it. Maybe by that point, by May, maybe they'll allow limited audience, but I think we're assuming that it's going to be another digital performance. And then, I'm relatively optimistic that, we don't have a show. Our first show in our season for the following year isn't until November is our first show. So I have to believe that, if as the news says, that, a large percentage of the population is going to be vaccinated by July, August, I think there's a good chance that, probably with some restrictions and some people with obvious trepidation, and maybe we have to both film and do live performances simultaneously for a while if we want to reach everyone who wants to see the show. But my thought is we'll be back to a full season for 21, 22. Yeah. I don't know how much longer people can take it.
Well, they also don't have a choice.
I know.
Storm the theaters. No.
Do you see, like you just said, do you see incorporating stuff that you've done in the pandemic, filming, streaming live, that kind of incorporating that into what would normally be a typical theater season?
I think once we're back, no. So once we're actually able to be back, no. Just because, for those that don't know, with the rights and plays and stuff, you have to get separate rights. Not every show, because one of the shows we looked at, we weren't able to do the filming of it. So even things along those lines, as well as each film when you do, you're paying per show as well. So that definitely comes into play. The reading series, though, definitely we want to be bringing that into more of our shows in the future. So we
Yeah, I
have
think,
talked about expanding
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, they're right. And the trivia nights, some of the, it certainly
Yep.
opens up all sorts of possibilities for fundraiser stuff, or even things like, I could imagine doing a one night, doing a play reading, or doing a one night sort of thing over Zoom or digitally in some way in between main shows. I mean, I think people are much more, I think it's going to become woven into, I think every theater company is going to probably weave some of this stuff into their normal proceedings, even when we return to live. I think it'd be foolish not to. Why overlook another avenue
board
to reach your audience?
board meetings cannot be via Zoom. Like even something
Right.
like that is great. Like
Right.
you no longer have to like need
Right.
to, yeah. So
Very true.
little
Very
things,
true.
little things.
Yeah. I'm optimistic that hopefully, come the fall, Fringe hopefully will be. I think that'll be the first sign of whether things can start to move in the right direction.
Great.
And it seems like the more people are getting vaccinated and are available to be vaccinated. So that's I think moving in the right direction. And so it's just we just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, I think.
When does Fringe open for submissions? I forgot when that usually
that's a good
April.
question.
April?
It used to be March or April, I think, is what it used to be.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think it
had
used to
have
like
to-
close in April. It was usually really early, so it used to be, I think, March or April. So,
Yeah. So they're gonna have to decide.
Right.
I think they're gonna have to. I think they're gonna have to go for it. I don't think I just don't.
Well, will they do online again? That was the question. I mean,
Well, I don't know. I don't know any of the numbers. I don't know how they did. That's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know what their numbers were. I don't know. I mean, I tried to attend a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
But and I just think how I also think it's, like I was really surprised about the jazz festival, I guess reportedly moving to RIT, because that feels like another gut punch to all these downtown restaurants and coffee shops and everything that need people. You need people downtown. So I really think that everybody, the city and everybody's going to figure out, we got to do this. We have to have this. We got to get people downtown again. We got to get people on the streets again. And yeah, if there's, if we limit capacity, or there's, there are lots of smart people. They'll figure it out.
And the other thing that I think also factors into this is that there are moves being made by our state, to open up some things. Now, I feel like they haven't done anything for the arts, but sports and everything has happened.
Right.
So I feel like that is something that might actually factor into all of this too.
Right. And even though it may not be arts related, you learn from that. You learn how to do it. You learn, like, I know people are like, oh boy, people get to go to the Bills game and not but you learn, okay, how many people can we test in a day? How do we do that? How do you space them out? How do you provide services, bathroom, food, any event you hold, even whether it's art related or not, you are learning sort of how to slowly get back into the swing of things. So I think anything's good.
Thinking about the rights for shows, I know that usually the rights are based on number of shows and capacity, and not being somebody who goes after rights for shows, I don't know this, but is that something that you think MTI or any of those other things will consider moving forward? Like, in September, we can have 30% capacity, so we'll be able to make this much money on the show, and can these rights be available for that?
They might. I mean, the thing with most of the shows we do, it's usually just the flat right, because it's the whole, non-professional community theater. But yeah, you would hope so. But who knows along the lines?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I do think it seems sort of unfair to charge somebody for a 80, because you do pay depending upon the capacity of the theater, But, you know,
when it comes to things like musicals and stuff like that, that's
Right.
usually where you're going off your number, your audience members.
Right.
Mostly like the straight plays and stuff, usually not as
Yeah.
much, but yes,
Right.
certain shows definitely.
I think one of my big hopes for the future, this isn't related to local theater at all, but I hope there'll be more, and I understand why Broadway doesn't do this, but I hope there'll be more filming of plays and musicals and broadcasting of them, you know, even after it closes. You know, I understand that you don't want to, you know, if,
Yeah, during it.
you know, I mean, I kind of understand, because I do think that if you live in New York, you're going to like Broadway, you're going to go. Like, I don't think anybody says, well, I'm not going to, you know, people like that go to the theater. But if you live in Omaha, you know, you never, you know, maybe once in a lifetime you're going to go to New York City. And so one of the things I really enjoyed early in the pandemic was like that, you know, the National Theater Live movie, you know, and just sort of, you know, I would hope that maybe one thing that might change is for the bigger professional theaters, you know, here's another revenue stream. Here's another way to say, hey, you know, you want to see, can't make it to see Hugh Jackman, the Music Man, because you live in Nevada. Well, you know, after it closes, 6 months after it closes, here you go. You can watch it for.
Can't get tickets to Hamilton? Here you go.
Right. Yeah, I don't think Disney's Hamilton is going to hurt ticket sales of Hamilton
exactly
once it's back up.
Exactly.
And I also think
still,
no, well, and I also think that also Netflix and all these streaming shows have been putting out movie musicals of the musicals that were on Broadway. So I also feel like there is they're adding to an audience that may not have been, you know, and in Omaha, who cares? It's Broadway, but now they're understanding, you know, not saying that people from Omaha don't know what musicals are or would never go to New York, but they're expanding that.
Sorry, Omaha.
Sorry, Omaha. That's just who we picked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that they're expanding their audience with these new movie musicals that they're doing that aren't necessarily filmed musicals, but I think that they're making a case for it.
Yep.
And I feel like I've seen a chatter on Twitter about filming more musicals.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, but as we all know, I mean, Lauren, you're as a performer as well. I mean, it's definitely not the same. And I was saying that to Jeff and to Kevin and everybody last night, is it's so anticlimactic, because when you're in a show, it just builds as the time go on, versus this, you film it and then it's over. I mean, it's what it was when you first film it. And that's something we joked about when I did Joan, is Jeff's like, you do realize people are watching you tonight. Because it's over. So that is definitely something that I think all of us in the theater, although film is great for those who need it, it's not the same as being live and being there.
It's not the same for the audience too, because I also feel like that energy transfer happens, but also energy transfer happens with audience members. And that I don't think you'll ever get that with the films, but
it's so true.
There's a trade-off.
We have somebody coming to take pictures tomorrow night. Annette's coming, Annette Dragon, and we're like, oh, thank God Annette will be there, because there'll be another human in the audience who hasn't seen this 600 times like Kevin and Eric have.
It's true. Doing Zoom shows, I've done 2 now, and it does feel very weird that I'm just talking to my computer and that's it, and I can't hear if laughs are landing.
Hard.
I can't hear but I gotta trust that what I'm doing is, I think it's funny. So hopefully that's translated to people that are, you know,
I mean, I've done like 7 Unleashed shows. We've done like 7 improv shows, and it's bizarre. It's really bizarre. And you just hope that, because there's nothing more fun than, like, you know, creating something really funny that really worked, that really clicked together, and you came back to a joke and the audience is into it and they're loving it. And it's just, again, to just do it to a screen and like, boy, I hope this is working. I have no idea whether this is any good. I don't know. I'm just here in my dining room now in a weird hat. And it's like, what am I doing? And, you know, so it's hard to know.
The one thing though that I will say is, though, as long as you, the actor performer, are having fun, that will translate through the computer screen.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know about other audiences, but I've seen shows, I've been in shows, and I feel like in talkbacks afterwards, they know that we're having fun. They were
Yes.
laughing. It's just not the immediate feedback that we normally get from being live.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right.
But
It's like the worst case scenario for actors who are desperately in need of affirmation and terrified that they're not getting it. So it's like, wait a minute, I have no idea whether you liked me. No, thank you
So much.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
so
you.
nice to see you.
Good to see
It
you
is.
too. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Just want to say another thank you to Jeff and Steph for spending their time with me for this interview. If you are interested in seeing Out of Pocket's Constellations, which starts on February 26th and runs for a couple of weekends, I've included the ticket link below, so click that. Thank you to Annette Dragon for taking and supplying the rehearsal photos that we used in the interview. Make sure that you are following me on all the socials for all the latest on Rock Talk Theater, and I just want to say that I really appreciate you spending your time with us, and I look forward to seeing you and bringing you more interviews for the future.